This is the Tech Phantom, and welcome to part 2 of the 16th section of the series. And in the last video, we were in the Duke's archives, and we killed Seath the Scaleless. And now we are back and talking to Logan. And if you guys were wondering why I had 325,000 souls, and this is both a little sad and a little funny at the same time, it's because I thought that you needed 325,000 souls to buy all of Logan's spells. So I went out and farmed about 170 or 180 souls, 80,000 souls. So that took me a long time. But it turns out that I had 165 souls too many, and now I'm going to have to spend them somehow, probably leveling up. So if you're wondering why I had 325,000 souls, it's because it was a pure mistake, guys. I must have double counted a bunch of spells, but anyway, let's get back to the lore. In the last episode, at the very end, we got the shard from the Lord Soul that Seath's body gave up when we killed him, and that was the shard that Wynn had given him as a reward for helping him defeat the dragons. And if you look at the description for the shard, it tells you that Seath was an albino scaleless dragon who betrayed the dragons, helped Lord Wynn, and he was made a duke, and he was allowed to do his research without, unbothered, without any distractions in the Duke's archives. So that was basically confirmation about everything that we had said in the video, or most things. And we also said in the earlier video that it looked like Logan was going down the same path of Seath. He was being seduced by the power and the knowledge available to him in the Duke's archives, because there were so many tomes. And it also could be that the power itself now resides within the Duke's archives, the power that's turning everything into crystals. In a previous video, I talked about how what's happening in the Duke's archives is similar to what happened in Blytown, where the Chaos Flame started corrupting everything. So it could be that not only is it could be that Logan is going crazy because of the power. It's a corrupt power, and that's the same thing that happened to Seath. He became insane. The power was too much for him. He found too much knowledge. His small mind was not able to handle it, and power was overwhelming. It was beyond his control, and it started seeping out, turning everything into a crystal, and now it's corrupting Logan. But anyway, for whatever reason, Logan is going insane. And he still, thinks that Seath did nothing wrong, that he was just a studious dude working on furthering magic. Alright, so we've talked to Logan. Let's see what he says now. And now he's completely bonkers. Now that we bought all of his spells, the little bit of purpose that he had in teaching us spells is gone. And if you guys remember, at the end of the last dialogue, after we bought all his spells, he's just started saying so he went crazy at that point. And now when we go back, he's starting to become hollow. The purpose he had, which was to the other purpose he had, which was to sell us spells, that has, that's gone now that we bought all his spells. And then the power has completely consumed him. He's completely crazy, and God knows where he's gone. But we have an idea. We know that we found Seath in his inner sanctum, in his study. So it's possible that Logan is in his study. So we're going to go back and we are going to talk to him. And I do hear something that's a little bit dumb, guys. I take the long route. There are two ways to get back to the area where we fought Seath the first time and where we were killed. This is the long way back, which is to go to the Anor Londo bonfire and to walk back. The other way is to fight your way through the bonfire at the Duke's Archives. But anyway, so it's going to take me a few minutes to get there, and it's going to take me a couple of minutes to fight through the enemies. And I'll be talking about a couple of items that I missed on the previous video, so this is actually going to give us an opportunity to catch up and flesh out the story that we told in part 1 of this video. By the way, part 2 is not going to be as long as part 1, so this is going to be 20 minutes, something like that, 25 minutes. It's not going to be another hour-long video, so hopefully you guys will have a chance to watch part 1 and part 2 back to back, because I think that makes sense to watch them both in one session. Okay, so one of the items that we didn't talk about in the last video is the crystal ember. And if you read the description of the crystal ember, it says that it was a ember created by Seath that allows crystallization of weapons. And crystal weapons hit very hard. They're actually stronger than normal weapons, but because they are crystallized, they are brittle and they break, so they don't wear. Whereas normal weapons wear and can be repaired. For example, a normal sword, if it loses its edge, it can be honed. A blacksmith can repair it. Whereas a normal weapon wears, a crystal weapon breaks, and once something breaks, it cannot be repaired. So that is how the game explains crystallization to us. The only way to repair a crystal weapon is to upgrade it, and when you upgrade it is as if you're making something brand new. You bring it back to its original form. You ascend it to the next level, and when you do that, whatever durability it lost in battle gets reset, and that's how you're able to get a little bit more use out of a crystal weapon. But now we know how it was that Seath was making the crystal weapons that he was using to equip these crystallized soldiers. He was using the crystal ember to make crystal weapons. And apparently he didn't need a blacksmith, because he was doing this himself. He was, maybe through magic of some kind, he was using the crystal ember, and he was crystallizing the weapons. And actually what is more likely is that he used the crystal ember during the experiments, or during the transformation of the dredgelings into crystal soldiers and into crystal knights. All right, so that's one item that I missed out on. The other thing that I didn't talk about is I didn't talk at all about the mechanics for the Seath fight. I started talking a little bit about how to get the tail cut, and you guys saw how maddening that can be. It's never taken me that long. But what I did wrong was that I didn't let Seath come out in the middle of the area. He was too close to a wall, and when I tried to get around his tail, the side tail, and I got to his back tail, I didn't have enough room to chop at the tip. I was sort of chopping at the center, and that's why I wasn't getting the cut. And at the end there, you saw me figure out that, hey, that's not the way to go. You need to bring him out, bait on the attack, bring him out, get him away from the walls so that you have access to the very tip of the tail. And when I finally ended up doing that, You know, the tail cut came pretty quickly. And then after that, I just concentrated on one of the tails of Seath, and you just keep chopping at it, and if you just keep circling with him, he won't even do any attacks. So it's not a very difficult boss fight at all. It's just a matter of being patient and not losing it while you're trying to get the tail cut and not getting cursed or hit by his attacks or getting pounded by his tail. Okay, so that little walk back did give us an opportunity to fill in a couple of the missing pieces from last video. So we're back to the studio of Seath, to Seath's studio. And we are going to, I think we're going to find Logan here, and he's hollowed. So I've got power within, and I got great magic weapon. So we are going in, we're going in pretty strong here. So hopefully we won't have many issues with Logan. And there he is, and it looks like he went truly bonkers because he took off all his clothes and he was just wearing his hat. And he drops the white dragon breath sorcery, his hat, and he also drops the tin crystallization catalyst. And we see that Seath in his studio was guarding the large magic ember, and that ember is used to make magic weapons and ascend them to their fullest. So Seath was sort of hoarding magical power, and he probably used the large magic ember in his research to create the crystal ember. He probably based the crystal ember on the large magic ember. So we've killed Logan, and we found a part of his armor. So now we want to go get the rest of it. And here's a description of the Moonlight Greatsword, and it tells us that Seath is the grandfather of sorcery, and that this sword is imbued with his magic, which shall be unleashed as a wave of moonlight. And the tin crystallization catalyst is something that Logan made, and it allows you to cast incredibly powerful sorceries, but you can only cast half as many, and actually it's 1/3 as many. And finally, white dragon breath, and basically Logan wanted to be just like Seath. He definitely was infatuated and trying to imitate Seath, to the point where he even created a spell that would mimic Seath's dragon breath. It doesn't have curse, it didn't have the curse component, but other than that, it was very similar to Seath's dragon breath. And then the big hat, which he never took off apparently. There's nothing special about it other than it's large, and it kept his face away from other people, because we know that he was not the most social of dudes. Okay, so we found out something that was pretty interesting there. Seath is the grandfather of sorcery. So, and I'll talk about this a little bit in the next video, but the school of sorcery in Vinheim is called the Dragon School of Sorcery. So it's possible that Seath, or another dragon, and probably Seath because he's called the grandfather of sorcery, it's possible that Seath founded that school in Vinheim. And he being the grandfather of sorcery, that is why the school is called the Vinheim Dragon School. Alright, so we go back to the area where Logan was doing his initial research, and we find his catalyst, which has mutated into an uber catalyst over time, although initially it was just a standard catalyst. And then we find his robe, gloves, and boots, and the description of the robe is misleading. It says it's worn out, there's nothing special about it, nobody knows what it originally looks like. But the robe is incredibly powerful, guys. You can improve it up to about 60 with Twinkling Titanite for physical defense. So as far as light armor, I think it has the highest physical rating for an armor piece that weighs 4 units. All right, so in the next bit, second part of this video, we are going to go into Darkroot Garden, and we are going to talk about the final piece of Seath's lore. So I'll be back in a second here. Alright guys, so we have about 12 minutes where we are going to try to tie, put a ribbon on Seath. And this is going to be the video where I put forth probably my most speculative theory. And it's going to involve Seath. It's going to involve Havel, it's going to involve Reah, and it's going to involve Dusk. And I don't know if I've read this or I've seen this something similar to what I'm going to tell you anywhere else. But based on everything that we've seen in this video, I think what I'm going to tell you is consistent, and again, to me it makes sense. So here we go. And because I am going to be trying to put the lid on Seath, I'm going to be jumping ahead a little bit, and I may talk about item descriptions a little bit ahead of time, and that's because I have quite a bit of ground to cover, and like we said earlier, we have about 11 minutes or so left in this video. Alright, so we go back to Valley of the Drakes, and we are going to find the armor set for Beatrice, the witch. We find her catalyst and also her armor. And this item doesn't actually become available until you defeat the 4 kings. And this item has been laying around the whole time, and we just didn't pick it up. And it happens to be my favorite female armor. It's not as strong as the Sage robe, and overall it's not as strong as the Santa set, but it is, from a design standpoint, my favorite armor set. Anyway, if you read the description of the cloak and the catalyst, we find out that Beatrice was a witch that was not trained in Vinheim, the Vinheim Dragon School, which we think Seath founded because he's called the grandfather of sorcery. So she was either born innately with magic inside of her, she was sort of a prodigy, or she taught herself sorcery, but she was a little bit of a heroine too, because she ventured as far as the abyss, but unfortunately she passed away and she didn't make it out of the abyss. So she's a pretty interesting character. Alright, so we know that there are other types of magic in the world besides the magic that is sort of tied into the dragons. The School of Magic, it's called Vinheim Dragon School, and Seath is called the grandfather of sorcery, but we also know that there are sorceries from Elysial, and there are other sorcerers also as well that can just magically appear in the world or teach themselves, like Beatrice. Alright, if you remember a long time ago, maybe it was in video 2 or 3, I said that we were going to come back and we were going to take out this prowling demon, and we are finally able to do it. And we are going to defeat this guy, and he is going to drop Demon Titanite. And if we read the description here, it's going to tell us that the faceless beast rose out of great slabs of Titanite. And here's the important part. When the nameless blacksmith deity passed, from several slabs great beast arose. So the nameless blacksmith deity was safeguarding the slabs. And when he passed, for we don't know why, when he passed, the beast arose from the slabs, or the chaos flame, which is corrupting everything in this world, corrupted the slabs, and out came the prowling beings. Alright, so what about this blacksmith, divine blacksmith deity? Well, if you remember, Havel was imprisoned in a tower, and we found his equipment in Anor Londo. But it was hidden, which didn't make sense because Havel was a comrade of Lord Wynn. Anyway, his equipment was called a divine heirloom. Both his shield and the dragon tooth were divine heirlooms. And as a matter of fact, if you do an L2 with Havel's great shield, instead of doing a bash, what you will do is you will cast a spell on yourself that will improve your poise and your defense. So this great shield had some kind of divine incantation. And also his armor, which he wears, but also the armor that his knights wear, it was also described as being cut out of rock. And funny, it has the same color as Titanite. So I'm thinking that the Dragon Tooth, especially the Great Shield because of the incantation, and the equipment for Havel were all made by this nameless deity, blacksmith deity, that passed and safeguarded the Titanite slabs. And therefore, it's safe to say that Havel was friends with this blacksmith deity. And if the blacksmith deity resided in Anor Londo, that would make sense because we know that Havel could have also been in Anor Londo because he was a comrade with of Wynn. What is puzzling is that Havel hid his stash in a secret basement in Anor Londo. So why would he do that? Why would he put offensive equipment that he could use on an assault in Anor Londo, the realm of the gods, where Lord Wynn lived? So we'll get back to that. So other facts that we've learned. We've learned that Reah was on a mission from the Church of the Undead, that she was royal. We also know that undead missions of the clerics of Thorolin into Lordran are mostly suicide missions. They die trying to reach the undead or get the right of kindling, or they're killed by Petras, or they're killed by Patches. So we know that that's a suicide mission. And that's another fact. Alright, so we've just picked up the Enchanted Ember. And again, this is confirmation that there are different kinds of magic in this world. Because if you take a look at the description for the large ember, which Seath had in his study, this one, it's different. That one says that only Vinheim blacksmiths were able to use the large ember, but the Enchanted Ember says that it's a relic from Elysium. So it's likely that Seath taught the blacksmiths in Vinheim how to make magic weapons with the large ember, but you can also make them with the enchanted ember. So that that's pretty interesting. So magic from Elysium is another type of magic, and it's powerful too. So you would think that that's something that Seath would be interested in. All right, so let's get back. Let's get back to the story of Havel. So Havel hates magic. As a matter of fact, he hates it so much that he has his armor has very strong magic defense, and he has a miracle called Great Magic Barrier, specifically designed against magic, to protect from magic. And it's very likely that Seath was not very good friends with Havel, since Havel despised magic, and Seath was the grandfather of sorcery, of magic, according to what we found in a previous video. So we also know that Reah and Havel are related because they're both royals, or actually that's the theory that I put forth. They know each other. They're both from Thurland. She's a royal. He's most likely a royal or knows the royals because, you know, he is friends with Wynn, so he must be part of the court. He's a very important person. And I put the theory forth that Reah is related to Havel. So I think what happened is that Havel tried to intervene when Reah was sent on the undead mission. And he was shut down by Wynn and by Allfather Lloyd, because Allfather Lloyd is the head of the church, and the church is based out of Thurland. So very likely that Allfather Lloyd knows Havel as well. So Havel rebelled and gave up his allegiance to the church, and also to Lord Wynn. And we know that Havel was a bishop in the church. So Lord Wynn, who was a very dear friend of Havel, didn't want to imprison him himself. So he asked Seath to rein Havel in. And Seath was more than willing to do that because Havel despised magicians. So he probably despised Seath, and they both disliked each other. And we are going to find a couple of items here in a little bit. One is a divine ember that is on the body of a blacksmith. And the other item is going to be a key, which opens up the tower door where Havel was imprisoned. So I think what happened here, guys, was that Seath killed the blacksmith who had the key, was friendly with Havel, and was going to free him. And then he put this butterfly, the moonlight butterfly, outside to guard the way. And if you read the description for the soul of the moonlight butterfly, it'll tell you that it was created by Seath. And that I think Seath also, during his research, found about Dusk Ring, the Crown Dusk Ring. It's a very powerful ring, and something that he would want because it increases magical power quite a bit at the expense of life, and he doesn't care about vitality. He's going insane. So he reached through time, or he somehow found Dusk, and he kidnapped her, encapsulated her, imprisoned her in within a plane of distortion, and within a crystal ember. So it was Seath that imprisoned Havel and imprisoned Dusk. Alright, guys, that is going to do it for the Seath lore. I hope you guys think that I am not crazy and insane like Logan and Seath. And this is the Tech Phantom signing off.